Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at GrustasBrady on X. You can follow me there. And today it is time for the Week 6 stock report. Which 49ers played well against the Buccaneers and which still have some work to do. And of course, stick around until later in the show because the Niners' next opponent just had a phenomenal showing in primetime last night. And also, a couple of ex-49ers went head-to-head as well. But before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below. Leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. So it is time for the Week 6 stock report, like I said, and this is where these stock reports are going to start to get really interesting. When the stars go down and the expectations are gone and the Niners have their backs against the wall, that's when we really get to find out who this team is. I mean, just think about last year, man. Guys like Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall and Malik Mustafa and Renardo Green, all those guys really showed up and earned roles on this team for this year, right? This is the part of the year where we get to see who deserves a shot to stick around, and new stars may potentially be born. And of course, these guys, they might not be who you expect either. Nobody expected Juwan Jennings to have the year that he did last season. So for the rest of the year, and in these segments especially, we get to see who's breaking out and who's falling behind. Let's start with our first stock up candidate, though. It's going to be linebacker Tatum Bethune. Bethune was a 7th-round pick out of Florida State in last year's draft. He was the 49ers' last pick in that class. And despite being in a crowded room, he did earn a spot on the 53-man roster as a rookie as a backup option at middle linebacker. And this year, in his second season, he's continued his development, at least in the preseason. He looks more confident, he looks quicker to trigger downhill, and he's really starting to make some big hits. This is, just my takeaways in the preseason, where I thought Bethune clearly won the backup Mike's job. But now, in Week 6, I thought Bethune was able to bring that success into the big leagues. He's a certified hitter, man. Bethune can lay a hit. With him and Malik Mustafa in the lineup, there's going to be some highlight tackles this year. You may get to see the hit stick used a little bit more often. Bethune's a little bit undersized, but he carries that sort of aggressiveness that you really need to overcome a size deficiency, kind of like you saw a guy like Dre Greenlaw do, right? The Buccaneers have a pretty solid run game, and Bethune was able to make an impact regardless. It wasn't perfect from Bethune, obviously, but there were times he got caught covering grass instead of covering players, right? But I do think it was a good day overall. I should say that. And he's now an NFL starter. So I think stock up, even if just for that, right? But I thought he played pretty solid. I'm assuming, though, that Bethune, as a Mike linebacker, it's going to be his responsibility to get his teammates set correctly and in the right positions. That would usually be Fred's job, but it'll likely be up to Bethune now to wear the green dot, as they say. It looked like there were some communication issues for the defense on Sunday, so that's definitely something that Bethune will have to get sorted out ASAP. Next up, I've got a guy who's been a phenomenal performer all year long, but he's one who I've barely given any credit to. It's Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey has been the backbone of the 49ers offense so far this year. He's on pace for over 400 touches this year, which is obviously way too much, but we've had to lean on him heavily. And while the running game has been pretty atrocious, that hasn't stopped CMC from showing up in a big way. He's currently second in the NFL with 46 catches, and he's up to 8th in receiving yards with 444. Not to mention, he's leading the league in yards after catch per catch. And that's not just for running backs. That's among all players in the NFL. He's second in the entire league for catches and 8th in the entire league for receiving yards. This is including receivers and tight ends and some of the best playmakers that this league has to offer. McCaffrey, he's just putting the offense on his back. He's doing everything that he can to will them to victory. And he finally got his first rushing touchdown of the year this week. So I've got to give him a lot of credit. This credit is probably overdue, if we're being honest. Hopefully, this offense will finally get healthy over the next week or so, and Christian won't have to do it all himself. But regardless, stock up for CMC. And last but not least, I'm going to go with Mykel Williams as my final stock up player. Again, this was not a perfect game from Mykel, but he did make a clear impact this week. It started right away with that screen pass early on in the game. Mykel drove the right tackle right into Baker's lap, and then he got his hand up to just slightly tip the pass, did just enough to kind of freeze that receiver and let Fred Warner come and blow up that play. I thought that this was Mykel's best game so far as a pass rusher. Was he, showing off the moves? No. But playing against former 49er Charlie Heck, Mykel got to show off his power a little bit, and that's what I want to see. I'm not expecting these perfectly executed technical wins like a Nick Bosa, swim move or a swipe or a push-pull or anything like that. I'm not expecting it to be perfect. But I do want to see him overpower people with that strength that he has. And I want to see him make plays like his first sack. Cleanup sacks often get a bad reputation around the league. But for this defense, I want to see more cleanup sacks. It's hard enough to get pressure with no Bosa and no Warner. The Niners have to get better at finishing the rare plays where they do get pressure. And if Mykel can keep cleaning up those plays like he did on Sunday, then he'll be just fine. And I will say this, I think that Mykel struggled to contain the edge in this game. It was a bit unexpected for me personally, given how he's played this year so far. But overall, I do think this was a good day for Mykel and a stock up for sure. So time for stock down now. And this first name's pretty obvious to me. It's Jake Brendel. Brendel had his worst game of the year on Sunday. He allowed sacks, tackles for loss, multiple penalties. It was just bad. Brendel has not been awful so far this year, but he hasn't exactly been great. Up until this week, where he was horrendous. Brendel was completely outmatched by Vita Vea, but he was also losing reps to guys like Elijah Roberts. I mean, it was a bad performance. I'm done with Jake Brendel. I'd like to see him replaced after this year. There's very few good centers in the NFL, and even fewer of them are actually available, but I do have 3 guys that I'd like the Niners to target to replace Jake Brendel. Let's ignore the draft for now, because the Niners have not drafted a single center in Shanahan's tenure. Seems like he really prefers veterans and guys who know his offense to pick up that slack. But here's who I want them to target. First, I'd like them to go after Jackson Powers-Johnson from the Raiders, right? We've talked about this on the show already. That would be a trade scenario. But looking to free agency, Cade Mays has been a pretty decent player for the Panthers so far this year, at least in the run game. And he's a free agent this year, so maybe something to take a look at. Maybe they go ahead and bring in Cade Mays. And of course, last but not least, Tyler Linderbaum from the Ravens is a free agent at the end of this year. Linderbaum is one of the best centers in the league, so I have to assume that the Ravens pay him, but they don't have unlimited money. Lamar Jackson's cap hit next season is going to be over $70 million. That's insane. Yeah, the cap is going up. The cap's growing every year. You can restructure, blah, 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 blah. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. And I don't know if you can pay elite offensive lineman money when you're giving out that much to Lamar, and you're already paying guys like Mark Andrews, and you've got other big contracts on the team as well. Marlon Humphrey's on a big deal. You got to pay Kyle Hamilton as well, right? And with how disastrous this season has been for the Ravens, I wonder if things just get kind of weird in Baltimore and Linderbaum ends up wanting a fresh start somewhere else. And maybe the Ravens get outbid for Linderbaum. Maybe Linderbaum would want to stay, but John Lynch comes in and says, hey, we'll give you all the money you could ask for. Just come wear that red and gold. Fantasizing about centers aside, major stock down this week for Jake Brendel. Now, this next one pains me a bit, but I've got to lower the stock for Mac Jones. Mac had his worst game as a 49er against the Buccaneers, and while it probably wasn't as bad as the stat sheet would indicate, it was still not great. His decision-making, it got worse and worse as the game went on, to be frank. And I get it. Mac was sacked 6 times in this game, and when you're hit over and over like that, it gets harder and harder to make those decisions. But still, if you're the quarterback, you can't be throwing balls like that 4th down interception that Mac threw to Jamel Dean. Tonjes was open on that play. He was past the sticks, but Dean read Mac's eyes and jumped that deep out for the game-ending pick. It's just not good enough. It's not a good enough decision from Mac Jones. And Mac has been an absolute warrior this year. All the respect in the world to Mac, but he just didn't play good enough on Sunday against a talented Buccaneers defense. Stock down. And last, I've got a repeat offender here, or should I say a repeat defender, because it's D. Winters. The missed tackles are officially back for Winters. I thought he had gotten rid of his tackling issues, but no. Once again, Winters hurt this team by missing routine tackles more than once. I was really disappointed to see that Rams game was not just a fluke, because D was seriously playing so well to start the year. But now, with no Fred Warner next to him, he looks very human, very beatable, and like a guy that you can exploit with a good offensive game plan. He's still flying to the ball, but that doesn't matter if you don't bring the guy down, right? You have to make the tackle. That's your job playing defense. Especially if it's Baker Mayfield on 3rd and 14 when he's scrambling for the first down. He's going to have to step up in a major way because he's right now the best coverage linebacker on the team. He's got the most playing experience aside from maybe Luke Gifford. That's not saying very much. This is his first year as a starter. He has to blossom into a leader if this defense is going to be serious in any way this year. And over the last few weeks, he hasn't done that. With that said, though, Winters is getting the opportunity this year for the very first time. He's playing, right? He's not riding the bench like he was last year and his rookie year. He'll have the reps to get through these tough weeks. And this is his first year as a starter, like I said. So there are going to be bumps in the road. But I'm hoping we can really see D. Winters resurge later in this year and get back to that early season form. So that is the Week 6 stock report. Stock up for Tatum Bethune, Christian McCaffrey, and Mykel Williams, but stock down for Jake Brendel, Mac Jones, and D. Winters. What do you think? Are there any standouts, good or bad, that I forgot about? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm excited to see what you think. Now, to wrap up the video, I just want to quickly talk about the Monday Night Football doubleheader from last night. First of all, let me know in the comments what you think about the doubleheader format. I kind of don't like it, if we're being honest. I never find the time to watch both games, and oftentimes I don't even have time to watch one Monday night game, much less two. But luckily, this week I was able to watch a bit of both games, and I've got some thoughts. In the earlier matchup, the Atlanta Falcons took down the Bills in a 24-14 win thanks to an offensive explosion. Drake London went crazy. Bijan Robinson went crazy, had an 81-yard touchdown. The defense held its own. It was a really impressive win from the Falcons. And it's clear that there are no dominant teams in the NFL. The Bills have now dropped, I believe, 2 in a row and are sitting at 4-2, no longer first in the AFC East. Any team can win any game on any given Sunday. The NFL's just weird. It's always weird, but I feel like especially this year, there's no dominant teams. And on the one hand, that makes it even more crushing that the Niners are suffering so many injuries to their very best players, because you have to think, like, if these guys were healthy, they'd be running circles around this league. But on the other hand, maybe the Niners will still have a shot at this if there are no truly elite teams, right? Maybe all they'll need to do is just get hot at the right time. Maybe it won't matter as much that they're missing these big contributors. In order for the 49ers to put themselves in position to do that, though, they're going to need to get some more wins and make the playoffs. And that starts with Atlanta this week. This is the same team that lost 30-0 to the Panthers, but they just took down the Bills. I mean, think about that. They just beat the Bills, but they're also the only team to be shut out so far this year. So I'm really curious to see what version of the Falcons we see on Sunday Night Football next week, because I'm not sure that they're totally legit. Now, to really quickly touch on the other Monday night game, Bears versus Commanders, it was a matchup featuring quite a few 49ers, or former 49ers, I should say. Jake Moody made his Bears debut against his former nemesis, Deebo Samuel, on the Commanders. I mean, how perfect is it that Jake Moody got to play against Deebo Samuel while the Niners played the Bucs? It's just a little too serendipitous, right? And honestly, it was largely a good day for Moody. He made 4 of his 5 kicks, including the game winner. He did have a kick blocked, and it certainly looked like what we saw back in San Francisco a bunch, where Moody would kick super low, it would get blocked, and you'd wonder if it would miss anyways. You know, one of those classic kicks. Ironically enough, it was blocked by former 49ers teammate Javon Kinlaw. But Moody did get the last laugh, and the Bears got the win. And maybe he ends up taking the Bears' kicking job full time because he was elevated from the practice squad after an injury to the Bears' other kicker. Honestly, good for Moody, man. It was clearly all mental here in San Francisco. That's why he struggled. He was never going to succeed here. He couldn't get out of his own head. So I'm glad the Niners cut him loose, and hopefully he's able to make some more millions in his NFL career. Personally, I'm much happier with my GOAT, Eddie Pinheiro, in the red and gold. And it looks like Moody's happier in a cold weather city anyways. He's a Michigan guy, loved those cold weather games, and maybe that's where he was meant to be. So what did you think of the Monday night games? Do you think the Falcons are real contenders? And do you think Jake Moody might actually be good now? Let me know down below. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.